In the beginning, healing was sacred. It was intuitive, slow, holistic, and deeply intertwined with spirituality, nature, and human patience. From ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, China, Egypt, Greece, India, and Arabia, healing was seen as a process of aligning oneself with the natural order, with the divine. Roots, herbs, leaves, oils, clays, and waters were used to rebalance the body, purge illness, and nourish vitality. These were not merely chemical interventions, but spiritual engagements. Healing rituals often accompanied by prayer, fasting, or moral reflection. The body was seen as capable of self-repair, provided the right natural tools, rest, and belief in its divine design. The human being was not just a body, but a vessel of the soul. And any disease in the body was seen as a sign of imbalance, excess, deficiency, emotional disturbance, or spiritual disconnect. Fast forward to today, and the landscape of medicine is almost unrecognizable. In place of roots and herbs, we have tablets and capsules. In place of spiritual insight and holistic understanding, we have diagnoses, codes, prescriptions, and a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire. It is now normal to suppress symptoms instead of investigating causes, to medicate rather than recalibrate, to mask rather than heal. We live in an era where the average adult takes multiple medications daily, not to recover, but to cope. We have normalized dependency on external chemicals as the primary path to health. But are we healthier? Despite unprecedented advancements in medical science, diagnostics, surgical precision, and pharmaceutical technology, global health is deteriorating. Chronic diseases like diabetes, cancer, autoimmune disorders, mental illness, and heart disease are at an all-time high. Antibiotic resistance threatens modern medicine's very foundation. Fertility is declining. Depression is exploding. Children are developing conditions previously only seen in the elderly. What's more disturbing is how this explosion of illness parallels the rise of the pharmaceutical industry. This is not coincidence. It is causally connected. This is not progress. It is cleverly marketed regress. The pharmaceutical industry was not always the giant it is today. Its roots trace back to 19th century Europe and America, where chemists began to isolate active compounds from plants. Morphine from opium, aspirin from willow bark, quinine from cinchona. The shift from whole plant remedies to isolated compounds marked the beginning of a mechanistic approach to health. Instead of working with nature's complex synergy, scientists focused on extracting singular active ingredients and later synthetically reproducing them. This allowed for patenting. And where there is patenting, there is profit. By the early 20th century, industrial pharmaceutical companies were born. Bayer, Merck, Pfizer, names now global giants, began to shape medicine into a mass-market product. But a major turning point came in the early 1900s with the Flexner Report, funded by the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations. This report restructured medical education in the United States, promoting laboratory-based pharmaceutical-heavy biomedical science while discrediting herbalists, homeopaths, midwives, and traditional healers. Medical schools teaching natural or holistic medicine were shut down or defunded. What emerged was a new orthodoxy. Only scientific medicine based on chemicals, surgeries, and pharmaceutical intervention was deemed valid. Everything else was labeled quackery. This consolidation of medical authority was strategic. With the Rockefellers' control over oil and chemicals, and the rise of petrochemicals as the base for many synthetic drugs, the pharmaceutical industry became a lucrative extension of industrial capitalism. Medicine was no longer about healing, it was about business. The patient became a customer, the illness a market, and the drug a product to be sold indefinitely. Chronic disease became a goldmine. If a drug could manage, but not cure, a condition, it became a billion-dollar product. Today, the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most profitable sectors on the planet. It is deeply embedded in government policy, media narratives, medical education, and public health institutions. Drug companies fund medical research, sponsor academic conferences, and write clinical guidelines. There is a revolving door between pharmaceutical executives and regulatory agencies like the FDA. Conflicts of interest are not the exception. They are the norm. Doctors are trained to diagnose and prescribe, not to prevent or heal. Nutrition, lifestyle, stress, emotional trauma, spiritual misalignment, all the true roots of disease are sidelined. This model incentivizes sickness, not health. The more disease, the more profit. There is little financial motivation to cure a disease when managing it guarantees lifelong revenue. Cures are rare, treatments are common. Vaccines, statins, antidepressants, insulin, blood pressure drugs, acid reducers, painkillers, all generate recurring sales. Even diseases that could be reversed through diet, exercise, detoxification, and natural remedies are instead medicated indefinitely. Prevention is a public slogan, but not a private goal. The real business is in creating dependency. Worse still, many pharmaceutical drugs come with side effects, often requiring additional drugs to manage those side effects. A person may start with one prescription and within years be on 5. Polypharmacy is common, especially among the elderly, but even children are not spared. ADHD, anxiety, depression, allergies, asthma, conditions that are often environmental, dietary, or emotional in origin, are swiftly medicated in youth, initiating lifelong dependency. This is not health, it is chemical slavery. The spiritual dimension of healing has also been erased. Modern medicine treats the body as a machine, the mind as a set of neurotransmitters, and the soul as non-existent. There is no recognition of divine wisdom in the body's design, no space for belief, prayer, gratitude, or moral purification in the healing journey. But humans are not machines, they are psycho-spiritual beings. Trauma, stress, sin, guilt, anger, grief, disconnection from God, these manifest in the body. True healing requires realignment of the soul with its source. Without this, even the best medicine becomes superficial. In prophetic medicine Nabawi, we find a model that respects both the body and the soul. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used honey, black seed, cupping, olive oil, dates, and water, not merely for their nutritional properties, but because they were divinely blessed. Illness was not always physical, it was sometimes a test, a purification, or a spiritual signal. Dua, tawbah, dhikr, and trust in Allah were central to healing. The idea that a pill alone can solve a deeply rooted imbalance would have been absurd. Today, we replace prayer with prescriptions, patience with painkillers, fasting with pharmaceuticals. Furthermore, the natural world offers a vast pharmacy created by the Creator himself. Plants contain hundreds of compounds that work in synergy. Ginger, turmeric, garlic, cinnamon, oregano, mint, and moringa all are natural powerhouses. They modulate inflammation, cleanse toxins, support immunity, and balance the body. But they cannot be patented, monopolized, or mass-marketed in the same way synthetic drugs can. So they are ignored, ridiculed, or even banned. Their effectiveness threatens the profit model. Even when natural remedies are studied, the industry tries to isolate active ingredients to sell them as drugs. Yet the effectiveness of a plant often lies in its complexity. Removing one compound diminishes its potency. This reductionist approach also reveals a philosophical flaw in modern science: the obsession with parts, not wholes. True health is holistic. It involves lifestyle, environment, emotion, belief, relationships, and spiritual purpose. Reducing healing to molecular interventions is a tragic narrowing of perspective. We have been conditioned to fear nature and trust labs, to mock ancestral wisdom and revere corporate science. But where has this brought us? To an age of mass sickness, dependency, emotional numbing, and spiritual void. We have become consumers of treatment, not seekers of wellness. The more we chase artificial fixes, the more disconnected we become from the healing intelligence within us. The human body has an innate drive to heal. Given the right environment, rest, nourishment, and spiritual alignment, it is astonishingly resilient. The real task of healing is not to override the body, but to support it, to remove toxins, repair deficiencies, reduce stress, and return to fitra, the natural state of balance. Healing is not about conquering nature, but cooperating with it. The time has come to reawaken our spiritual and natural intelligence, to return to the gardens and kitchens, to trust the wisdom of plants and the mercy of God, to reclaim agency over our health and stop outsourcing it to industries whose priority is profit, not healing. Science has its place. Emergency medicine can save lives, but chronic illness, lifestyle disease, and spiritual malaise cannot be healed by chemicals alone. We must remember, we are not just bodies to be medicated. We are souls to be purified, minds to be disciplined, and hearts to be healed. The path to true health begins with reconnecting to the source of all healing, God. It is time to return, to reorient, to unlearn, to detox not just our bodies, but our beliefs, and to remember that real healing is not found in the pharmacy, but in the Phytra, in the earth, and in the remembrance of God.